Mr. Griffith, 5 minutes for questions, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate it. Appreciate you all being here today. On June 8th, 2018, the committee, Dr. Gottlieb, the committee sent FDA a bipartisan oversight request for information about the FDA increasing criminal enforcement at ports of entry to combat the opioid epidemic, an initiative that you have championed and we support. The letter has only 6 requests. Some of the requests were first posed by an email to the FDA Office of Legislation on January 30th of this year. It is now late July, and the FDA continues to tell the committee staff that the letter is in clearance. Commissioner, could you help expedite the clearance of this letter so the committee has FDA's response before the end of July?
I absolutely will. It is in clearance. And we, in an effort to try to improve transparency and get that information out publicly, I did make a lot of the information, if not most of the information that's going to be in that letter, available publicly in some remarks I gave at a forum we had to try to work with internet stakeholders to address opioid sales online. So I have made the information public. I can make those remarks available to you. I think we've made them widely available. So, but I recognize the importance of getting the formal response back to Congress, and I'm on it. I face some of my own challenges up my line.
Well, and you have so much to do, and I really thank you for the good work that you're doing, and there's a lot of different areas that we've been working on together, and I appreciate that very much. What further improvements will FDA make to the expanded access program to ensure the process is effective and efficient for providers and patients, particularly now that the federal right to try legislation has passed? And while I like the House version better than the Senate version, we've got the Senate version. Give me an update on that.
Well, we have a process underway right now, a working group that's looking at what steps, if any, we ought to take to facilitate the proper implementation of the right to try measure. It's going to be a pathway that sits alongside our expanded access program. We're still going to operate our expanded access program. You know, we did bring in an outside group, an expert group, to take a top-down look at our expanded access program, make some recommendations to the agency on how we can improve it. I'm going to make that public soon to provide some transparency around what they found. But we think that there are additional process steps that we can take to make it easier for people who aren't as sophisticated or physicians who haven't done this before to access that. We're also working with Friends of Cancer Research and the Reagan-Udall Foundation to create a platform to have sort of a one site of entry, if you will, to get information about what expanded access programs exist. I think that the challenge still remains the difficulty, sometimes reluctance, but a lot of times difficulty of sponsors to actually make drug available, especially when we're dealing with things like, you know, some of these cell-based therapies or biologics where the cost of goods aren't trivial, and when you're a small company, you barely have enough product for the clinical trials. And I've been on the other side of this, so I know how that is. And so I think we still need to look for ways that we can provide proper incentives to try to make sure that when we have really, really promising therapies, we might be able to have supply available too to make that available to patients.
Well, and I appreciate that. You know, I've been an active proponent of right to try for many years, and if people are facing death, they will take that Hail Mary pass and take whatever they need to if they can. Let us know what we can do to assist you on that as well. Dr. Collins, I'm going to ask you a couple questions just to give me an update. One, I have a partial answer that I already found on the internet, and that is with Lou Gehrig's ALS. I understand you all had a breakthrough this spring, but I also am interested in Huntington's chorea, and obviously I ask about these because I have friends who've been afflicted with both of those.
Those are both terribly important and often tragic neurological diseases that result in neurodegeneration. With ALS, as you mentioned, there has been an encouraging development of a new therapeutic approach this spring, still very much in the process of being evaluated. Huntington's disease, I will actually reflect a bit on, it's 25 years ago that my own laboratory was involved in the discovery of the gene that is responsible for that condition. And it has been very gratifying to see in the course of just the last year or two, still in a mouse model, very encouraging information about using a genetic approach to try to block the production of the toxic protein. And now in a human clinical trial, which we're waiting for the full data to be rolled out, but sounding encouraging, a similar possibility that utilizing a molecular therapy injected into spinal fluid, which then gets into the brain, may very well be able to provide benefit. And goodness knows, we've waited a long time for that kind of thing to happen, so it's pretty exciting to see. We've got a long way to go, I think, before we could say we really have the answers, but this is a lot different than saying we have nothing to offer.
I appreciate that very much and yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, thanks, the gentleman. Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes